We're here with Bill McGovern, native Clevelander who is now practicing law and living in Hong Kong. Bill, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Bill, tell us a little bit about yourself. You grew up in Shaker Heights. Tell us about growing up in Cleveland.
Sure. Have very warm memories of growing up in Cleveland. In fact, I'm here because it's my 30th year reunion for Shaker Heights High School, class of 1983. And just in the last 24 hours of being back, I'm reminded of all the fond feelings and fond memories I have in Cleveland. I still have family here, and so I'm back often. Really, for me, growing up in Shaker Heights was became an exploration of the city of Cleveland and what Cleveland's about. My father came to Cleveland in 1968. He was 28 years old, had just graduated with a degree in city planning from Harvard University, and decided that Cleveland was the place that he wanted to start his career. For him, at the time, the mayor was Carl Stokes. He was the first African American mayor of a large American city. There was a lot of excitement in Cleveland. There were a lot of problems in Cleveland as well, and I think for my father, he was attracted to that and hoping to be part of bringing people together and the different factions together to help solve some of the problems. So my lens of Cleveland from an early age has always been through my father's work in the city and watching him and the others that worked with him and that he worked for try to build the right collection of institutions and support around the city of Cleveland.
And your mom was a teacher.
She is and is. She's been with the Shaker schools for probably close to 40 years now, working in basically a counseling capacity, organizing around some kids who were underachieving at Shaker schools. So yes, we're a long-time Cleveland family. I think for me, the driver for me was an interest in government. Frankly, it was again part of watching what was happening in Cleveland and a feeling that the way to really dig into some of those issues was through government. And law school seemed like a path to go for that. And so as I went into law school and started to focus on careers after law school, the role that really jumped out at me as attractive was that as a prosecutor. And my view was that a prosecutor was really somebody in a community who could do tangible day-to-day things to help improve the life in a community. And I'd started my career in the Bronx District Attorney's Office and spent 4 terrific years there, and then moved on to federal government, to the Securities and Exchange Commission, where I worked on a variety of enforcement cases in the financial services industry. We had the range of cases typical to the SEC, so insider trading cases. I was there at a time when Elliot Spitzer, who was the Attorney General for New York, was very aggressively going after large banks, and the SEC was part of that effort as well. One kind of interesting case that stands out, working together with the Federal Prosecutor's Office, your old office, John, was a investigation into a elaborate global financial currency manipulation case. It was called Wooden Nickel. And we had come across a group, frankly, of organized crime figures who were rigging the currency exchange market, pushing it up on one day, buying and then selling before the inflated currency prices went down. We had undercover agents in there and had built a sort of a fake office that all of these criminals worked in. We videotaped the whole thing and eventually arrested them all. Great, it was a great case, and it's sort of the culmination of my career at the SEC. After the SEC, I went to work for Morgan Stanley as an in-house lawyer at Morgan Stanley. And several years into that, the opportunity came up to move to Hong Kong. And I sort of sheepishly went home to my wife and said, there's a great opportunity for us to move to Hong Kong. I had never been, she had never been. And she was unblinking in her support and her response to my question about going. And we were there within 3 months of that offer. We had 2 young kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. They didn't really have a vote. We just kind of packed them up, and I think they thought they were in upstate New York somewhere for a while. But we moved over and quickly integrated with the expat community there, and I started work for Morgan Stanley in Hong Kong. Really, essentially no, is the answer. We have learned taxi cab Cantonese to get around.
Right.
And I took Mandarin, but it hasn't really given me any ability. And the kids are taking Mandarin. In fact, just before getting on the plane here, I was helping my son with his Mandarin homework, which I'm finding I have really no capacity to do. So it's a tough language. I was at Morgan Stanley in 2010 and opened the Hong Kong office of a law firm called Cobre & Kim. Cobre & Kim is, as you said, a boutique litigation firm. We handle a range of disputes, but the focus is U.S. government investigations and regulatory investigations, financial litigation, and some judgment recovery work. And the idea in coming to Asia was there are very few firms that have a true U.S. litigation presence in Asia. There are a lot of law firms in Asia. There are a lot of transactional law firms in Asia. And there's a collection of sort of one-off litigators, but we wanted to really dig in and build a litigation firm in Hong Kong because we thought there would be an uptick in disputes kind of from the flow of capital around the world, China investing more in U.S. investing more in China, that would generate a disputes market, a litigation market for U.S. litigators sitting in Asia. It helped to find some of the various sports packages that you can get through the internet now, and I can follow the Browns. And I do run into Clevelanders every now and then. It takes some kind of poking around where you're from. People start with the Midwest, and I say, well, I'm from the Midwest too, and then we realize we're both from Cleveland. And inevitably the starting point is sports, but we move on. People have, one of the things I'm struck by, the people that I've met around the world, is a really warm feeling about Cleveland and an interest in connecting to what's happening here. I still see on the other side of the world a whole lot of excitement and energy in this city. And when you and the Bar Association reached out, I was really grateful for the opportunity to connect and support that. I think there are fantastic things happening here. And watching the Bar Association and some of the other institutional leadership in the city start to think or continue their thinking about globalizing their efforts, I think creates great opportunities for us.